It's time to take a deep breath, a little deeper, and settle in with your host, Jenessee, starting right now on the Wellness Hour on KRMA Radio.
Morning, welcome to KRMA Radio. This is Jenessee, your host for the next hour. I started just a few seconds early today, and I am in a place of open receptivity on the drive over here. Let me turn my voice down a little. On the drive over here, I was getting so much information. We call these downloads. I've talked about this on the show before. And so a download, or what I would call a download, how you might describe this to a friend, a partner, somebody you talk to about your life, is when you have an idea. Right? But for me, I switch my verbiage, which is very important when we talk to ourselves internally, or when we talk to other people. Words have meaning and words matter. And so when I explain an idea to me comes from the left brain, and I guess it doesn't. Most ideas, those kind of light bulb moments, are intuitive in nature. And so instead of calling it an idea, because to me that's a lower vibrational way to explain what is coming through you, I like to say it's a download, because to me that means there's something greater at work, and it taps more into the right brain, the holographic brain, the brain that's not in a reviewing the past or analyzing the future moment and then constructing ideas on how to attain certain things. We just jumped right in, didn't we, this Friday? And so on the drive over here, I was having some downloads about this show, and my husband, as divine universe usually works, my husband, at the same time I was having these downloads, texted me and asked, "So what's the show about today?" And I responded back as a bad driver and texted him right back and said, "That's exactly what I am pulling through right now and having these downloads about." And the interesting thing, though, is that when a download comes through, and again, I'm going to preface the shows we've done before, probably show 16 or 15, somewhere around there, as downloads come through, they're almost they're expansive in nature, and they kind of come in like a ping pong ball, or what's that machine? The pinball. It's a pinball machine, and it's as if your left and right brain is kind of the toggles that are flipping that ball back and forth, and you're trying to make sense of and analyze what that download is through the left brain, but your right brain is kind of staying open and expanding that, either clairvoyantly, which is through imagery in your head, or through other expansive connections that download comes in with. And so this pinball of a download was kind of rattling through my head, and it was interesting because there were a few people that popped into my head as I started to understand what I was getting clear about talking to everybody about. And so let me just start with what I am hoping to maybe talk about, bring more clarity to. And I love this because to me, those beautiful Eastern philosophers that give us all those amazing kind of, what do you call them? Tidbits of wisdom, right? This is, to me, how I'm going to explain this. So where we stand on the mountain dictates our experience in life, right? And I'm sure we could kind of word that a bit better to give it that beautiful Eastern philosophy flow, something to the effect of, if the clouds are clear on a sunny day and your position on the mountain is just right, you'll see life in a new way. Or so, something that's kind of like a haiku in nature, and paints a picture of this esoteric concept. And so this has been a big component of what when I was asked to Mount Shasta, a lot of what I was speaking on there was about what I want to kind of dive deeper and give more probably tangible ways to work this concept. But this is basically, to me, multidimensionality. And so when we say that, people immediately tune out because how do we even wrap that beautiful left brain around the term multidimensional? I'm sure you can have a certain image come to your mind. Let's just see if we can do that. When I say you are multidimensional, how do you see that? I see myself as a spider inside of a web, and you've heard me explain that before. And there are other constructs here or images that I can paint for you. And my favorite one is this standing on the mountain. So everything that I have found in trying to break down these esoteric concepts into a understandable, digestible concept for us is we have to explain things almost in a linear way, and that takes multidimensionality right out of the picture, because to me multidimensionality is it's expansive, and a lot of times it's this spiral in on itself, and when we talk about raising our frequency or becoming more conscious or being more sensitive, more clairvoyant, more psychic, whatever these words are you want to use, or just happier in life, right, is what it all boils down to. To me, when I see this, when I explore this, when I tap into this in a personal way, everything becomes more and more minute within me, and so the highest levels of consciousness to me are the most still aspects of the resonance I can tap into within myself. So when I am in complete coherence, right, when everything is in sync within me, within my energetic field, my mind, body, and emotions, and then we can say soul, high self, all these other components of that you then tap into. Everything, when I am in alignment, it becomes just so still, so accessible. It's as if all of the holes are aligning and the holes go from bigger to smaller to smaller to smaller, like a telescope, and it's looking within, and it finds that singular point of resonance that not only lies within me, but that lies and resonates within all of you. And so to me, it's this inward journey of finding that still point that is the resonance between all of us. So to me, that's multidimensionality. But how do you start to paint that in a picture? And the only way, and I listen to so many people who do a really great job at explaining this, and but we all have to, and you can even watch this video when it gets posted on the YouTube channel or on the website, but I constantly do things outside of myself. When I'm talking about the bodies, I'll reference the physical body, and I'll put my hands right around my ears, and then I'll say the emotional body, and I'll go 6 inches out from that and kind of hold my hands outside of my shoulders, and then I'll say the mental body, and I'll stretch my hands out like I'm making a touchdown sign for football, and then spiritual body, and I almost point to the corners of the room. And so when we explain these bodies or the chakras, when we explain chakras, we'll talk about heart chakra being in the heart, and then throat chakra being in the throat, and then third eye in the forehead area, and then crown, and we put our hands 6 inches above our head, and then we keep going higher, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th chakra, however expansive and what lineage of chakra theory you want to talk about. So we constantly draw these pictures of these different energetic understandings, and we have to do it in this linear way where we're showing people where these things are in the vertical plane or in the horizontal plane where these things fall. And although it helps people to understand and see clearly that there's a point of difference between these things, because how am I going to show you everything internally or inside my own being? It creates a bit of disillusion to me, because then we're constantly thinking in these linear constructs. And so to me, I have been using this, where are you standing on the mountain, is the expression that I've been using to try and explain how we can all be experiencing this this complete co-creating, this complete sovereignty, this complete, which is like our word of the month if you've been listening to me on other channels, this can also explain how conscious you are, right? And so anyways, so this aspect of where you stand on the mountain, to me, if you can envision yourself just climbing a mountain, and if you get to that first plateau where you are just now kind of in line with the treetops, or let's just even go back a step further, where you're just right within that canopy of the trees, and you can't yet see the tops of the trees, but you're intermixed with the leaves and the whole canopy region of the trees, right? And it feels different than being on the ground and looking up and not being able to see or be the leaves and experience that. There's one reality when you're standing at the base of the mountain and looking up, and all you can see is the trunk of the tree next to you. You can reach out and touch it, and then you can kind of look up and see where the canopy lies, and you can't even yet see how tall the mountain is because we're at the base, and this is a heavy redwood type forest we're in here. And so this to me is the first initiation, and I'm going to use the Buddhic terms here for the levels of initiation, and don't think that there's anybody outside of yourself that is challenging you with these levels of initiation. It's not like some divine order that you're having to pass a test on. This is simply your own moments of awareness and what you're willing to step into as a conscious person. And so this first level of initiation is deciding that we even want to climb the mountain to see what lies beyond, right? So what we would say, if we're using the word unconscious, is that a lot of the unhappiness, the density, the disease, the trauma that a lot of humans go through would be the fact that they are at ground level and they have yet to want to look at the mountain and see the mountain for more than just what lies at that basically the base camp or the foot of the mountain. And so they stay where they are and never choose to climb the mountain, right? So as soon as an individual wants to explore and decides to start climbing that mountain, they enter the first level of initiation. And in your life, this is when you first question your consciousness. And you can do this from a clear point of perspective. And what that means is you can simply one day wake up and have lived in that, as we call it, the hamster wheel of life, and you have been clocking in, clocking out of life, kind of that 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. cycle, and you one day realize, wait a minute, there's got to be more to this. And so you start to question who you are, why you're here, and what your purpose is. And we can all do this through much different ways. It doesn't have to be connected to a very esoteric thought process, but you could simply wake up one day, and this usually happens in chakra theory. We say this usually happens right around third eye chakra, which is in the developmental phase. Oh gosh, what is 6 times 7? Every man is probably core mathematics, right? 30, 35. So what is that? Like 40, 41 or 42? I don't know. I'm bad. I'm in a right brain process here, not left brain right now. My dad's gonna text me in 2 seconds. Papa, text me and tell me what 6 times 7 is. So anyways, third eye chakra starts to develop right at whatever 6 times 7 is, and then ends right at, I think, 42. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me just do this. Slow down. We're going to get very human here. So 6 times 7, 42. Oh, okay, good. I was. And then plus 6 is 48. So, so this is kind of the last developmental cycle. And again, we're going to use this in a very linear context here, but when do we say people usually have their midlife crisis? And I've talked about this before, and that happens right around this last transitional cycle of our expansion into claiming our full authenticity here on this earth. And so if we hit this age 42 in life, and this is where third eye chakra starts to naturally awaken, and if we have not yet fully grasped the greater perspective of our consciousness here, or why we're here, we start getting triggered by, it'll start with spiritual triggers, which are these divine data downloads that we talk about, or these ideas that start popping into your head that are somehow outside of you but resonate with you. And then if we don't follow through with that, we start having these internal mental wars with ourselves, like, why am I still in this job? I could be doing I feel such a draw to be in my purpose, or why am I still living in this city? I hate this city, I want to get out. So we start then bringing this into our mental field, and if we still ignore it, we bring it into our emotional body, and then we start holding emotional trauma. Usually it's density, because if we're denying our purpose, then we trigger it into density, which means we start feeling stagnant, or let's just use that purpose, right? If I'm in a dead-end job, or I feel not inspired by my job anymore, then emotionally, if I'm not listening to the trigger of this divine download telling me it's time to find my purpose work, then I'll start to bring that into my emotional body of feeling anxiety, feeling stressed, feeling maybe jealous of people who are living their purpose. And so we start holding on to these kind of denser emotions, which should be triggering us that something's wrong on the different planes of our existence. Yet a lot of people just say, oh, that's just me, wanting something I can't have, and end up suffering with this trauma and don't get out of it. And then it manifests into the physical body as an illness to wake us up. And then this is the second phase of how we can have this first initiation that inspires us to start climbing the mountain of our own life. And that would be if we have a crisis moment. And so how do we wake up? And how do we get that first call, how does our higher selves, how does our highest wisdom trigger us to start to become more of a conscious component of our own existence? And it's either through this, again, 42 is this starting into this kind of final leg of energetic development. And I was saying earlier, when do we, as a society in North America, have labeled people into going into a midlife crisis? And it's right around this 50 years old, right? Where you look back and you go, oh my gosh, what have I done with myself? Or what have I done with my life? And people instantly trigger into these, again, if we're in an ego phase, we'll trigger into these material world wants and needs to try and fill this emptiness that we have resisted in climbing that mountain, or trying to figure out who we are on this kind of internal level. And so we sometimes seek outside of ourselves to fill that need that we're missing internally. And so that is kind of point one. And of course this can happen. I had my moment when I was 5 years old, but I came into this world with a very clear chakra system and started having my midlife crisis at 5, if you can imagine that. I'm writing about that in my rewrite of this first book that's supposedly due this September. And so, this can happen at any stage depending on, what our lesson plan is and what our path is supposed to be and how clear we are, or how connected we are to moving through that path. But it always happens, and of course there are going to be different ways you can explain this, but if you're comparing this to your own life and how you might experience this, it's all about this first initiation, this first wake-up call, we call it the knees on the ground moment, where we fully surrender to knowing that there's something greater than us that we haven't yet been able to put our finger on, and we tap into this questioning moment where it's like, what am I doing? Why am I still here? Why am I feeling X, Y, and Z? Put any emotional, any physical, level conditions to it. If you're experiencing trauma, disease, or discomfort, emotionally, the density you're holding, the baggage you're carrying, and you almost like turn around and look at your life in this detached perspective and say, what the heck have I created, and why am I still repeating these patterns? And so, and again, that's a very conscious way to analyze that, but it could just be, what am I doing? Who am I? What am I? All these philosophical questions, right? Who am I? What am I? What is this universe? What's my purpose? And so as soon as we have this moment, that's when we start to climb the mountain of life. And that's when things get really spirally and crazy, because as soon as you decide to seek that which you truly are, the essence of you, it is like the wildest roller coaster ride of your life. But it's also can be some of the most confusing points, because you're going to have to basically run through all of this human conditioning, all of the patterns and things that we've taken on from other people, and archetypes that we're playing roles to because we were told we had to be a certain way, and it's really shedding all of these layers of society, of expectations, of things that we're not, to find out who we are authentically. And to me, that's the journey up the mountain. And so to go back to the first concept of multidimensionality, and there your head goes again, exploding, right? So to go back to that first concept, so walking the mountain, I'm giving you a vertical linear, right? Again, we're saying we're starting at a base camp here, and we're supposed to ascend, right? And everybody's heard this word, the ascension, which is all great and good, but there is this concept of that means I have to be at the top of the mountain to be a completely divine, connected, be who I'm supposed to be, and that is so incorrect. And that is what I'm just gonna say hate about everything in this consciousness teaching. It's not about only when you're at the top of the mountain are you this divine perfect being. You are the most divine perfect version of yourself when you're at the base camp, in amongst the trees and the shadows, and able to reach out and touch that trunk of that big redwood next to you, yet you have no clue about anything surrounding you. That is, you are as divinely connected and experiencing divine in that place that you are up on top of the mountain. And to me, this is where the multidimensionality comes in. And so when we are, so now if you incorporate horizontal planes to this vertical plane, the mountain being the vertical plane, and as we ascend, basically as we walk up the mountain, hit the different plateaus, what we're doing is clearing a lot of that shadow or a lot of that density. So again, when we're underneath the canopy of the trees, there's so much shadow, right? The sun can't break through. And so all we're seeing is shadow, right? So everything's kind of twinged in darkness, and if the sun's really bright and it's noon, you might get some glimmers of sun rays peeking through the leaves, but it's a lot of times very hard to feel that warmth or to see the sun or to hold on for too long, because you're under the shade of the trees. And so this is like the perfect explanation, as my words get taken from me, this is the perfect explanation of the human experience, because when we are standing on the ground level, this is what we would call the physical plane of existence. What you're dealing with is everything that you're basically only clear to this level. And so now we incorporate this horizontal plane that's supporting us, and this horizontal plane basically comes in and says, you are still a product of the foundation. So take this as the family, the society, those groups that you're connected into, those people that you're resonating with, the people that are surrounding you, those belief systems that you hold. You, at this physical level of awareness, are only as clear as basically the product of the society that you come from. And so in that, if you take a look at the people that are surrounding you, the go externally. So it's everything external is going to be how you start to understand where you are on this mountain, what horizontal plane you're seeing from on this mountain. And so if you are experiencing life from this physical level under the canopy of the trees in the shadow, what's going to happen is you're going to be in resonance with so much of the kind of shadow product that you are immersed in. And it's not, again, it's not as if this is good, bad, or indifferent. It is indifferent. It's the 0 point, but it's not good and it's not bad. It's just where you're seeing. And the only, so in order to see more clearly who you are at the core, you have to be able to see and feel into everything that surrounds you and know what is me and what is not me. And so a lot of times, again, we get triggered because we're in a level and we start to receive these downloads, or like I said earlier, these ideas that are a lot bigger than us in a way, just because it's not a way our brain has worked, right? Or it has, but we've kept pushing it off. So again, in these trigger moments, like I was talking about earlier, you receive this internal kind of thought form, or this feeling that comes in and says, hey, who am I? Why am I still doing this after 20 years? This doesn't, you wake up one day and it's just like, I don't feel like I fit into this box anymore. And so in that, and here we go, you're going to get lots of squeaking because I have to turn over the video. So in that, we have to ask ourselves, basically, what is it that I am, what am I surrounded by? So this is how we start to do, we call this mirror work or reflective work. And knowing that everything that's surrounding you is something that you have bought into at some level. And this is all divinely aligned to basically help you understand who you truly are. And so this is where I love basically exploring this multidimensional concept, because we'll just move up the mountain here, and as we start to clear our physical reality, which is basically everything that is happening outside of us and around us, when we start to feel that we're no longer in resonance, or the things that are surrounding us, like our job, maybe a partnership that we've been in, friendships that don't feel like they're helping us to be the best versions of ourselves. It could be the TV programming that you're watching. You watch the news and it makes you feel sick, and it makes you question why these people can't speak about anything except, again, XYZ, whatever, whoever you're watching, Fox News or MSNBC, you can insert your propaganda in either one of those sides. So basically this is showing us the pendulum swing of what we're connected to. And so as you're standing under that canopy, and you start the first initiation and you're deciding now to walk up that mountain, basically what you're doing is getting more clarity on who you are and what you're in resonance with. And so as we walk the mountain, we start to analyze in this first level of initiation what outside of us is basically not in resonance or not feeling like it should be a part of us. And this can even be, again, watching that programming. I remember when I first started doing this, it was the TV programming. I remember watching, when I first started taking a deep dive into meditation, it was all about basically going into this internal world and behind closed eyes and doing a lot of deep work. And in that, in my external reality, I had to stop watching, what was it at that time? Criminal Minds or something. I think somebody, my cousin was living with me, and maybe we were watching Criminal Minds for a little while. And then I started taking a deep dive into meditation, and it was like, I cannot watch this stuff because behind closed eyes, I am basically in contact with all this subconscious programming that's being downloaded to me from every level and layer. And when you go into a meditative space, it doesn't matter if it's well, nothing ever matters if it's physical, right? We all know from quantum physics that nothing's really even physical. But anyways, it was as if everything that was being experienced in my 3D or this human reality was coming up as a component of things I had to work through in the subconscious worlds that I was dealing with. And that was the first process of clearing myself through meditation, was to really go into all of these more dense thought forms, these negative programs that I had been kind of, I'm going to use a word, implanted with, but just had subjected myself to in my external reality. And so to have to deal with that behind closed eyes in a meditation, and start to understand what I'm buying into, what I am programming myself with, I immediately could not watch anything that was quote unquote like horror film, negative, dense programming on television, Criminal Minds, anything that was using kind of these like scare tactics, or like went to the complete worst case scenario, because that became an internal reality that I had to figure out. Am I buying into this frequency, or am I going to raise my frequency to understand that I'm the one in power and control? And so for you, this is, in the same realm, even if you're not meditating, as we start to go on that ascension up the mountaintop, you're going to start to look at these things in your external reality, again, back to career and your relationships and, what you're spending your money on, right? So if something in your external reality right now is all about, if all your Facebook feeds are about these trash islands and plastic consumption and the plastic straws like killing our sea life and all of these things, right? So if that is your external reality, and when you go to the store, you start shaming yourself for buying a water bottle, a plastic water bottle, or taking one of those plastic tear-off bags to put your zucchini in, whatever it is. This is how it starts to work. This is how we start to realize who we are on an internal level, and how we're self-identifying and figuring out what it is outside of us that we've been patterned to. So in that circumstance, in that situation, it would be, we grow up thinking that if I'm going to take vegetables out of the supermarket, I have to put them in this plastic bag that's provided and then put it in my cart, because that's just the appropriate way that we're supposed to do this. And yet now you think about it, and with all of this amazing information we have, and this might not be your reality, but this is just one example. So, for the person who's at their authentic core is this advocate of sustainability, right? Then they're going to start being entangled with this type of external reality. Things that are like this externally are going to start to pop up, and they're going to start to then climb this mountain. And as they start basically raising their frequency or clearing that physical world attachment, knowing there's something more, something greater that they're being called for, they start walking up that mountain. As they start to get into the canopy of the trees, and now they're half in the light, half, still within the shade of the beautiful trees, they're starting to really feel into where they've been fed or conditioned to be a certain way that is now out of alignment with their authentic or their most resonant source within them, right? This single seed of consciousness that resides within all of us. And so how do we figure out what that seed is? We simply engage in a present way in our life, and that's how we not only accept this first initiation level, but then start to move to the next plateau on that mountain, where we start to then get triggered emotionally. And back to that grocery store example, so the person who at their heart, at their core, has come to the earth to help teach other people and humanity, or even to just be an example of how we can live sustainably, starts to basically go through these internal feelings and internal emotional struggles, because this is the second initiation, or this next plane of awareness is this emotional body. And so as we start to clear the physical and really get grounded into what we're co-creating, what we're experiencing, what we're allowing to be in our physical reality, right? So for me, I chose before I started meditating to watch a show like Criminal Minds. And after I started meditating, I chose to stop all programming like that, because I had yet to understand that I was the authentic power that could control what I aligned to. And so I was in this lucid space of not knowing if there were negative entities out there that could attack me on a different spiritual plane, which I do not believe in. As soon as you claim your sovereignty, I do not believe that is a reality that we align to. But in that lucid space of basically starting to come into my own power, I had to stop all external programming that was telling me that anything could take my power away, because I was on a path of discovering that I am the ultimate power that controls my destiny. I'm the ultimate power that's co-creating this reality. And so for you, again, let's just say if you're the sustainability at your core, one of your core attributes is the sustainability, right? So externally, you're going to start to see how wasteful every aspect of this reality is. And before you understand what your authentic connection to that is, you're going to have to basically, you go into a complete stop of everything external that seems wasteful. And this person might be that person in your life that is the extreme version of, they're yelling at you for using straws. They're the one getting the petition signed to sue waiters if they hand out straws, right? But that is the part of the process that they are in, to figure out how they're bringing this concept to earth and living their authentic connection to this. And so we have to go to the extreme. For me, I had to completely cut out negative programming, because I didn't want anything to scare me in my physical reality or in my mental reality when I did meditation. For the sustainability person, they basically go to the extreme of, I'm not going to use anything, I'm going to compost everything, I'm going to buy bags from sustainable bags for all my friends, and I'm gonna shame people, so we do these extremes. For the vegan, right, or the person who, like the healer, this is a construct a lot of healers go through in order to start to understand what's their emotions and what are other people's emotions. So you talk Reiki practitioner, you talk psychologist, therapist, doctor, label any kind of healer in your reality. Mother, right? So in order to start to understand, as they go through this first kind of initiation level, clearing from physical body to emotional body, raising that clarity on the mountaintop, one of the things they'll go through, the healers, is basically understanding what is my energy and what is everybody else's energy. And so one of the ways healers goes through figuring out what's mine and what's yours is they'll stop eating animal products, and then they become this advocate. And again, if we're going extreme case, people will, from vegan, go into like PETA and all of these aspects of, we cannot eat animals because when we ingest the animal, we're ingesting their emotions, and if the animals were treated poorly in captivity, and you've seen some of these behind the scenes investigations where they go into the cattle, I don't even know what it's called, but where they're all lined up and they're beating them and doing just horrific things. And it's like, you're ingesting that, basically bringing that into your own body and ingesting that emotionality of what that animal is going through in its life experience, and now you're going to bring that into your body. And so at this first level of, well, between the first and second level of understanding who we are authentically, we tend to swing our pendulum as far as we can to a kind of an extreme version of what we need to figure out what I'm identifying with. And so a lot of times, if you figure out where you've gone into these extremes, right? Or if it's, let's take it to a really simple level. If it's somebody who at work, they're starting to detach from their career and they're being downloaded with this purpose work, and this purpose work is coming through very intensely, and the person starts to detach and not be engaged in their work environment anymore. And in that work environment, they start so energetically, when we're supposed to be somewhere else, but we're not listening to that, what happens is we start then experiencing shifts in our physical reality that are going to trigger us that it's time to go. And so this person might have a lot more interaction with people that's creating anxiety and tension, and they're feeling like they're being their power is being given away. They start drinking excessive amounts of coffee just to get through the day so that they can have enough sustainable energy, right? So they start finding these external stimulants. Maybe this person starts doing things outside of the job that is extremely stimulating. Maybe they get into drugs or alcohol or I'm going to the complete bad scale, maybe they go pick up prostitutes, and they go and do things that are complete extreme examples. So we can do this in a dense way, extreme things to actually feel like they're living, right? And or to numb what they're receiving from whatever they're engaged in this physical reality. And so this happens to so many people, and this to me is it's still co-creating the most divine version, even though as humans we like to label some of these things as positive or negative. To me, it's indifferent. This is how, if we haven't been taught that this is how life works and this is how we get triggered, to move to the next, because again, we have, from a very young age, we're so programmed that we have to follow this system and we have to do things in this organized human way that basically keeps us secure and keeps us protected, and follow the path of what the woman's supposed to do and what the man's supposed to do. And even though we've kind of erased some of those dynamics, we still have these constructs that to be successful you have to have a house and you have to have a family and you have to do this. This is what we call this human collective consciousness that we're all subjected to. And so as soon as we start to our authentic path is not in resonance with this, we're going to start manifesting these things that are supposed to be triggers to let us know that something is in dysfunction. And how I teach this is, if you're not living at a 10, and Dr. Irvin and I were talking about this last night on our Thursday show, it's like, if you're not living a 10, if you can't take a look at your life physically, emotionally, mentally right now and say you're not somewhere floating between a 9 and a 10 every day, there is something you are not paying attention to. And so, where are you on the mountain, number one? Are you in complete clarity to who you are authentically and what you're supposed to be doing and what makes your heart soar and what makes you feel like the most divine version, the most free, right? So to me, it was always freedom. How did I label what felt like divinity? When I felt free, when I felt like I could be me through my physical, emotional, mental. And there was a time and place when I felt so free doing a career path, and I could still be me and create what I wanted to create and be and feel successful, and there was a level of that. But then there became a time when I no longer felt free to live my expression in that place. So I had to let go of that so that I could step into the next level of myself. And so however you want to identify whatever word it is, if it's happiness, if it's love, if it's joy, if it's freedom, like you have to figure out what the seed of your authentic expression. And again, I know that's like a big word, but like not to just when we say authentic, so what makes you you, right? And that's the hardest question, right? That's how we start our journey up the mountain. It's asking, who am I and what am I made for? And so if you've asked that question, if you've felt this, if you've had any connection to this, you don't have to know. All you have to know is, am I a 10? Am I living between a 9 and a 10? Can I hold happiness or the feeling of being free, living just life in a connected way? Or if not, if I can't say I'm resonant with that, then what is it in my field right now that I am co-creating? Because again, it's not negative. It's if you're the person going out after work because work is no longer serving you and you're going to, smoke pot or drink alcohol or cocaine, who knows if you're an upper or a downer or whatever it is, if you're doing that because life at work, which you're dedicating so much of your energy and time to, that's for most humans, it's at least 8 hours a day. If that's no longer serving you and you're compensating for that externally once you're out of work through whatever way you need to numb or you need to feel like you have some kind of exhilaration or excitement in life, whatever it is, it could be cheating on a spouse because that gives you a rise. Whatever it is, it's not bad. Just recognize that when we go to these extremes, it's showing us that there's a deficiency within this authentic core of who we are. Because you could be the nomad backpacker on the hill with no monetary anything to your name and be the happiest, most connected version of yourself because you're in pure trust. And I know this isn't everybody's version of it, but whatever that version of freedom is to you, what is it? And so if money equals freedom for you, or so a lot of times, let's see, I used to do this. This is taking me way back. Let's see if I can tap back into this. So I used to have to figure out what was at the seed of my authenticity by saying to myself, okay, well, right now, what am I seeking? Okay, so for me, it was money, right? So right now I want money. Okay, why do I want money? I want money because money gives me the ability to do what I want. Okay, well, doing what I want, what do I want? Why right now do I want to do what I want? And to me, so I want to win $1 million because if I can win $1 million, I can quit this job that I'm not happy with because it's taking up so much of my time and I'd rather be painting, right? And so if I can just have money, it'll afford me the ability to pursue my own passions and do what I want to do and not do what somebody else is telling me to do. Okay, so then, well, why aren't you doing what you want to do? Well, if I did what I wanted to do, if I just wanted to paint, I can't make a living off of that, and so I need money, right? So let's just put ourselves into, okay, if you could paint and make money, how would that feel to you? What is that? And to me, it always boiled down to, oh my God, that would be freedom. That would be the most freeing expression. If I could just paint and create day in and day out, and that would be my living truest expression. And so if we question, right now, outside of ourselves, what are we wanting that we don't have? Right? If it's a better relationship, if it's money, if it's happiness, if it's health, right? What is this? And so you start with the very physical, and then you go into the emotional of it. And as you get into the physical, so if it's a better relationship, well, why do I want a better relationship? Because the relationship I'm in is crap. It makes me feel it makes me feel trapped. It makes me feel like I'm serving the person I come home to. It makes me feel like I'm walking on eggshells. I can't be myself. I can't be this person. Well, okay, so and you just keep drilling this thought process down until you figure out it, because it's all about you. So anytime you're labeling, well, they're so angry and they always make me feel so little and stupid and like I'm not worth being there. And okay, well, so how are you being a connected component of this, and what's it doing to you? Well, it's making me feel unworthy. It's making me feel stupid. It's making me feel less than myself. Okay, well, what do you want? Well, I want to feel free. So, okay, in that space, what is it? Is it speaking? Have you spoken your mind? And so when you boil it down to a point of questioning that you can't go any further, write that statement down, or write wherever you are with it when you can't question yourself deeper. And then when you get to that, well, they always just put me down, and they're always telling me what to do and what to say and what to think. And I can't handle this anymore. They're making me feel like I'm going to just break. I'm going to rip in half and break. And so, okay, that's the point you're at. So what does that person do to get out of it, right? So for me, the artist, like if you could be paid and create, what would that be? So for this person who's being broken down and belittled and whatever it is, whatever those attributes are, okay, so what would it be if you could feel like you were one half of a whole in this relationship, and you could live and speak your truth? And then what is that? So I would feel empowered. Okay, so empowerment, that's what you're seeking, right? Freedom, that's what I was seeking. So there's these attributes that reside within all of us, and we can boil it down just through kind of backtracking what's happening in our physical, and what things are here goes my phone, what things are what things are really, and how do I say this, giving us charge in our reality. Because again, to me, if there's anything that's, let's see, how do I explain this? Charge is like, I feel it, so personally I feel it like cords of attachment into my body. And if somebody's able to give me charge, that means that when something's said, it instantly gives me that kind of gut sensation, like, oh my God, what did I do? Am I wrong here? Did I say something wrong? Am I going to be viewed as something bad? Or so charge is this like, oh, what I am isn't good enough, or oh my God, did I ever step my bounds? Am I being tactless again? Am I speaking truths that people aren't ready to hear? So anything that gives you charge takes you out of feeling in complete connection and like you're in your power, and it makes you feel like you've done something wrong, you are wrong, you've overstepped in some way. And so anything that gives you charge or takes you out of that still point, that center point within yourself, is a place to start. So find all these places. I'd say if you can write down all those things in your external reality that are giving you charge, they might have names, they might be people, it might be political things, anything that can give you a rise. That's a good way to put it too, like that can get you in that kind of like, just again, it can give you rise, it can stimulate you in a way that you don't, and it's not that you don't like, because a lot of the patterns we end up getting into, but that takes us out of our natural state of harmony, joy, happiness, and balance. And so write down those people, write down those things. If it's your home, right, walking into your home, your environment, and every time you walk in, you just get this funk, and it's like, oh, this place is not supporting me. I'm in a horrible neighborhood. I'm in fear of this place, and maybe it was broken into at some point, and every time you walk in, you feel violated, you feel vulnerable, right? So anything can give us charge that takes us out of our authenticity. And in all of those connections that give you charge, that's where you need to start. This is the physical plane of existence. This is starting and it's not even starting, but we all constantly are walking up and down this mountain. And my goal is to get you living a 10, where if you're given charge, if you get these points of connection where people are able to charge you up about something, it's basically a point where I want you to be in that, feel where you're still giving energy or giving parts of yourself away. And then I want you to be able to recoup within that within a few hours, or know that, hey, this person was able to stimulate this in me again. And I don't like that because it took me out of my authenticity. And I want you to catch that cycle within hours, instead of living weeks, months, years in this cycle of getting charged and then going into some emotional reaction or completely disassociating from whatever it is that they're charging you over because you've become so numb to it, or you're compensating for it with alcohol, drugs, those are like very simple examples. Maybe you continue to leave the home and you go out and run for 3 hours because you're disassociating from the charge that you're getting in your home life, or maybe you take it out on your kids, or God, we can do this, humans do this in every way possible. And so I want you to write down the places where you're still being charged, and then have those at least be key points of awareness for you, that I'm still giving my power away and people are able to take me out of my authenticity. So once you do that, now it's a not only subconsciously, because people are able to charge us through our subconscious and create reactions within us, but also this basically then now becomes a conscious a conscious connection that we have. And when we are conscious about those areas that are taking us out of our authenticity, we're more quick to understand that somebody just did this to me again, or was able to get me to step out of who I am typically. And so what will happen is you'll get instantly triggered by the emotion, because again, we're walking from the base camp at the base of the mountain to plateau 1, which is right up there in the canopy of the trees. We're starting to see the light, which is consciousness. We still are dealing with shadow, which is this density. And so, and in all of this, it's divine. Remember, we are attached to the people in this life that we're attached to because they're helping us to learn how to become more authentic. And if you can see everybody is just the most divine teacher of your life, whether you hate them, love them, if they're murderers, if they're the Antichrist, if they're whatever, anybody you're connected to in your reality is an angel teaching you in this life to step into and claim your authenticity. So, because you're in resonance. So if you hate the people you're connected to right now, they're basically just a reflection of you. And we're going to be totally honest in saying that, because in heart resonance, we in this physical reality, like attracts like. You've all heard that. Go study your quantum entanglement. We even talk about this with mirror neurons, right? So study this on every level and layer if you want biology, if you want astrophysics to explain this to you. Go search it. It'll prove it to you in every realm of science out there. But like attracts like. It's just a natural phenomenon that happens within this beautiful world we're all in. And so you are in resonance to the vibration and frequency of people that are surrounding you. And so if you do not like that resonance and that frequency, you better change yourself, because those people are just the angels reflecting to you what it is that you're in resonance with. So if it's not you anymore, and that's our whole focus of today, how do we get from being in density and unconscious, subconscious programs and getting triggered all the time and not living a 10, and I'll give you from 9 to 10, not living from between 9 and 10, life experience, right? Or this, I'm going to label it joy, freedom, feeling completely happy and in love and joyful and so excited. Your feet hit the ground and you're like, I am a 9 today and I can accomplish whatever I want. If you're not doing that every single day and you're waking up going, oh my God, I have to deal with this again. There is density in your path, and it is being created through you, with you, by you. It is you. Everything dense that you're labeling as somebody else's problem, it is you. It is your problem because you still align to it, and you're numbing yourself. You're detaching from it. You're allowing the pattern to co-create in your reality every day. So get out of the hamster wheel. Get out of the monotony of saying, oh, well, this is just my life. This is what I've been assigned. Hell no, it is not. You're choosing it every single day. You're human. You have free will. And so own it. Like, own it, accept it, find out where you're given charge outside of yourself, which means where you're being taken out of your authenticity. And then once you do that, you're able to consciously know when you're being charged and then what emotion you step into, because the emotion will show you where you're repeating a pattern. So if the emotion is indifference, then you know you've completely indifferent. So a friend told me once, they were talking about a marriage and about love, and she said he was getting marriage advice or something, and this woman said, you know, the worst emotion you can feel in a relationship is indifference, because it means you can't even hold the vibration of love anymore. And so that's basically this disassociation complex, right? When you've completely checked out of it and you're like, I'm willing to let this pattern run its course as long as it needs to, and I'm just checked out. I'm just going to be a part of whatever happens just because I don't want to make any changes. I'm scared to make changes. I'm indifferent, and that means you're basically indifferent to your own path, your own life, and everything that's co-creating through you as well. And so in indifference, we're not even able to connect to any kind of vibration of love, happiness, contentment. You know, I asked that person, what number do you on average hold? What's your happiness scale holding, right? That was a rabbit hole. Anyways, so after you get the emotion, right? So is it jealousy? Is it fear? Is it control? Is it grief? Is it guilt? Is it manipulation? What are you being triggered by? What are you feeling? And then you start that questioning process. Why, what is it? What do I want to change this? Go to the wants. Why do I want to change this? What is it that I want to change about it? Or if this was perfect, how would it look to me? And then start asking yourself, well, what is it that I'm not honoring in myself? What is it that I'm not allowing? So for me, back to the artist and the painting, like all I want to do is create. All I want to do is be creative, paint, to sculpt, to do all these things, but that person can't make money. And so if that person made money, then what would that feel like? It'd be freedom. So find ways to give yourself freedom and to honor that within yourself, because this is the next plateau. When we understand that what I'm seeking is freedom, we then align to the freedom vibration, the freedom frequency. And then when we do that, anything that's not matching that level of freedom, what we're attaching to our authentic quality, we start to see it for what it is. And then in frequency, like attracts like. So those things that no longer align to your frequency, your vibration, will naturally fall off. And those things that align to that and support that will naturally get attracted to you. And this is how you start to change your reality. This is how you start to gain clarity at that next plateau level, where you're now in almost control and understanding of emotions as the language to show you where you're still allowing people to trigger you and not trigger you. So today, to wrap up, we have talked about how to go from your base camp level of being in the density, running the hamster wheel of life, how to start to shift that to basically step into this second plane of awareness. Now you're higher on the mountain and you're seeing with more clarity everything that's underneath you. And you can tell when things are trying to pull you down back into that shadow, into that density. And you're going to choose through the emotional triggers you have what you're aligning to. You know that it's okay to feel all of the dense emotions, jealousy, fear, grief, guilt, anger. It's okay to feel those as long as you don't get stuck in them and allow them to make you so dense that you slip down the mountainside. It's okay to feel those emotions as long as you use them as wisdom to tell you that I'm stepping out of my authenticity. And the quicker that you can catch the fact that you're stepping out of your authenticity means that you're living these cycles of clarity, or of consciousness, conscious expansion, conscious evolution, quicker and quicker. And so the quicker we can transition those feelings of density into realigning to who we are authentically, we allow all things to now resonate with us in our vibration, and all the things that are dense will begin to fall away. I always said I never needed to make a choice in my external reality. like, do I have to choose to let go of a friend or not? No. As long as I'm stepping into my reality and owning my stuff, naturally things will either move out of my field or they'll come into my field. And this is how we become co-creators of our own field, co-creators of our own destiny, and start to live in those higher vibration numbers of 9s and 10s daily, because we're so inspired by the things that we're doing and how it's affecting not only us, but then in resonance with all the things that are connecting to us. So thank you so much for another beautiful Friday. Thanks for honoring me here at KRMA Radio. My name's Jenessee. And I just started doing on the app, the Chakra Deck app, which is free. You can download it on Apple or Apple or Android. It's called Chakra Deck. And you can download that for free. And then in that, there's daily guidance. So I just started doing a really cool daily practice, and it's a really short meditation. And then after the meditation, I do a quick read of the energy coming in, and then give kind of an intention for the day. And so it's a really great way to shift your reality. So everything, if you feel like you're in kind of a hamster wheel, sometimes it takes changing that hamster wheel, getting on a different path instead of running the same path. And so daily practices to me are one of the best ways that we can start to shift and change what we want to change in our life, even if we don't know what it is we want to shift to. And so I started doing that for people. Oh, and I see a ladybug crawling across the keyboard right now. So it's lucky today. Everybody, I hope, has a great lucky day. And until next Friday, thank you, everyone.